Let's look at event creation and dispatch. Let's get started by creating a couple of events. You've got a couple of options for how to open the event creation window. In the toolbox near the top over here, just beneath the Taylor Built CAD logo, is a Create Event button. Or you can have the event creation window triggered by a keystroke or a keystroke combination. Now, currently we have it mapped to the function key F1, but we can map it to the keystroke or combination of keystrokes that you prefer. But I'll just click Create Event to open the event creation window. Inside the event creation window is an address line, an event code line, an area for notes or dispatcher remarks. You can see a window or a section for a priority code. Now, in order to see the list of event codes available to me, I can hit the little drop down arrow here, and we've just got a very small number of event codes programmed in here for testing and demo purposes. So let's enter an address, 2615 Oakmont, let's say, and I'm going to type disturb. Now, as I start typing, you notice that event codes that contain the spelling that I'm including start popping up. So at this point, I could stop what I'm doing, stop typing, and just select disturbance, disturbing the piece from the list. That's the one I'm aiming for. Or I could continue to type disturb and just hit the return key. If you type exactly what the code is, here's the code, these are the descriptions of the code. If you type the code exactly as it appears and hit the return key, it will automatically select it. So I'm selecting it there. I'm going to type in that this is a loud music coming from garage, let's say. Now, a couple things. Once I selected the event code type, it appended on the beginning an L for law enforcement, just letting you know this is a law enforcement type event code as opposed to an F for fire or an E for emergency services. And it popped up disturbing the piece. It popped up the description of the event code here. And in this case, it's flashing with a yellow background. Why is that? Because the priority code of 2, a warm call, has been set in the administrative side connected to a disturbance, this disturbing the piece. Now, because I've put loud music coming from a garage, that might not necessarily qualify as a medium priority call. Now, some agencies will have a number, and you can have as many specific event codes as you want. You could have varying degrees of disturbance. You could have a loud music event code that would have a priority code of 3 on it. But in this case, for training purposes, demo purposes, we've only got 1 disturbing the piece. So if your policy allows your dispatchers to adjust the priority of a particular event, then he or she could click the drop-down menu here, select 3 to sort of bump that down to a cold call rather than a warm call. And I'm going to click Create Event, and it pops up in the event queue. This is the 119th event of the day. Here's the address. Here is the event code with the priority of 3. And it's timestamped. The call was created at 14:52 and 11 seconds. And here's a little interesting addition. Out to the right of the timestamp, there is a counter that keeps track of how long it's been since the call was created. This one was created 32 seconds ago. Now, you notice that when my mouse touches or hovers over the created call, it becomes a little Mickey Mouse glove. Because it's hyperlinked, we would click that to open it and take dispatch action or other action, add additional remarks, and we'll do that in a minute. But first, let me create another event so I can show you something else. Let's say 140 East Commerce, and I want to do an assault because I want to show you something about an assault in this case. Bam. So a couple things. As before, the description pops up down here. In this case, it's flashing in a red, sort of reddish color. That's because it is set up to be by default a priority 1, a hot call. But probably the first thing you noticed was this big giant area up here that says SOP info. We're currently calling it SOP info. It could be call taker notes, call taker script, whatever, what have you. But you have the ability to, and we even show you how to create them in subsequent videos, but to create and attach an SOP to every call type, event code in your system. You'll notice it's scrollable, so the dispatcher has access to the questions that you want him or her to ask, or information that he or she may need in determining what actions they need to take on the dispatch. You can click the X to make it go away, but it doesn't go completely away. It's hidden right here in this little SOP info button that will pop right back up if I click it. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and click Create Event here. And so now we've got a hot call and a cold call, and they are ranked by heat. Let's do one more. And let's do, let's say 501 East Commerce, and I'll do another disturb, which is defaulted to a 2. This time I clicked it in the list, and argument, and I'll click Create Event, and you see that it jumped not to the top, it jumped in the middle, because the primary ranking is going to be by priority. Before we move into the dispatch screen and actually dispatching an event, a couple more notes about the Create Event screen. Our CAD is capable of working with at least 3 types of street file. A local street file that is housed in your system, on your server, whether local or hosted, or an full Esri ArcGIS server with full Esri capabilities, or pointing to Esri's World Locator, which is a little bit more limited in the amount of information available for an address. So here is an example on this screen right here of a local street file. Now, something I want to point out to you about this area of information that you see down here, it is configurable by your admin. As long as data is available in the street file, it can be selected or deselected for display in this area. This local street file probably has more information in the street file than is being shown here, but this would be an example where the customer, the user, you choose to just have the street address, the city, the law enforcement response zone, ESN and district, fire response zone, ESN and district. Here is an example of using the Esri World Locator, again with much more limited information available to be displayed. However, it would be the most inexpensive option for GIS data. And then here is a mock of what it would look like with the full Esri suite. You'll notice this ton of information that is available down here. And again, these are selected by choice from even a wider list of parameters available in the full ArcGIS Esri information. So let's say you get a call, you ask for the location, and the caller says, well, I'm at 2615 Oak something or other. And they're not exactly sure what the name of the street is. So you can type 2615 Oak, hit the return or enter key, and you'll get a list of possible hits. And when you look at the number 2615, it looks like you've got 2 possibilities, 2615 Oakmont or 2615 Oak Crossing. So you'll have to do a little bit more of detective work to decide which of these streets is the right location. But when you decide on one, let's say Oakmont, you hit select, and we pre-populate with the number that you typed in on the line above. Click OK, and our call is done. Let's say the caller calls in a motor vehicle accident at the intersection of Oakmont and Oak Manor. There's a couple of ways to indicate that intersection. Oakmont space at Oak Manor. We'll get it. Address Oakmont Cove and Oak Manor Drive. The same thing with no spaces. We'll hit the address. The same thing with the ampersand and no space. We'll hit the address. The same thing with spaces before and after the ampersand. We'll hit the address. You could type the word at here and hit the address. The word and with a space on either side. Finally, you can just simply type intersection of Oakmont and Oak Manor and hit return, and it will find the address for you. So a number of ways to hit the intersection of Oakmont Cove and Oak Manor Drive. Finally, let's talk about unknown addresses. Caller comes in from out of town, doesn't really have any idea where he or she is located. Well, frankly, that functionality is currently under development, and we would like your feedback on how you think the CAD should handle unknown locations. One current functionality that is inherent if you're using an Esri Street file is that if you can determine that the caller is calling from within the city limits, for example, and our sample data set is based out of Hernando, Mississippi, you could dispatch the call to the city of Hernando. There's no address. It's just a generic city of Hernando location, but it will allow you to create the event and dispatch the event, and then later when you determine a better location, you could upgrade that address. If you think that it's outside of the city limits, DeSoto County, in this case, would also work. It will just dispatch it to the geographical center of the county. I think that is somewhere in the county. And again, it will allow you to create the event, get the event dispatched, and then you could always come back and update the address once you have better information. Okay, I'll tell you what, rather than moving into dispatching events now, let's save that for the next video.